OK です。
はい、ありがとうございます。発表させていただきます。関西学院大学大学院教育学研究科院生のイと申します。今回は、私自身の挑戦としまして、英語でちょっと発表させていただきたいと思います。で、一応すべてにも字幕をつけておりますので、そちらを確認していただければありがたいなというふうに思っています。あと、時口先生に、チャットの方に、添付資料、日本語の、資料を送付、していただいておりますので、そちらを確認していただければありがたいなというふうに思います。で、ちょくちょく、日本語で、補足も加えながら発表していきたいと思います。はい。では発表させていただきます。もうタイトルとしましては、Japanese Language Education Designed to be Inclusive Children Who Stutter, Focusing on Speaking and Listening です。時つなる、子供の包摂を目指した、国語科教育の研究で、話すこと、聞くことに焦点を当ててというタイトルで発表させていただきます。So first, the introduction. I want to explain about the background of the research. And the first background is that the presenter is a person who started. I had a stutter since elementary school, and in junior high school, I began to recognize that I have a stutter. From junior high to high school, I experienced difficulties due to stuttering in speaking and listening. And as a college student, finally, I decided to come to terms with my stuttering. And the second background is I met with other stutterers, and through college and participating in self-help group, I met people who stutter from a diverse background. And while I was teaching at an elementary school, I met children who stutter, and some of them never consulted a class of language or a medical institutions. And the children with stuttering who are enrolled in regular classrooms have difficulties in speaking. And there are children with stuttering enrolled in regular classrooms, although it is difficult to notice. So, in fact, according to Mori, the number of people who stutter is about 1% of the total population, based on a regular classroom. There are approximately 1 person is enrolled in a school year with 3 classes of 33 students. And considering the possibility that there are children who stutter who have not consulted a medical institutions or not recognized by the parents and teachers, it is conceived that there may be a few more. And third background is a current state of school education. MEX has requested the program as it is anticipated that children who stutter is enrolled in classes and have difficulties due to stuttering in speaking. For example, MEX has requested the令和の、日本型学校教育の構築を、目指して、MEX has requested to adopt an inclusive education system in regular school. And also, and for example, 障害のある子どもの教育支援の手引き、MEX included stuttering in language disorders and requested that the special educational support be provided. But however, insufficient information is provided on the response to individual disabilities and each subject. And it remains a request for how to provide special educational support to children with disabilities. So according to Arakawa and UNESCO, in order to provide more personalized instruction and instruction for individual difficulties, it is necessary to clarify the educational needs of each learners and consider about curriculum guideline. And second, it is necessary to examine the characteristics of learning in each subject. And also, rather than trying to assimilate children who start into existing school education, we need a perspective that continues to rethink and reform the educational systems. And it is necessary not only to provide special educational support to children who stutter, but also to ensure that all children learn through the educational support. So for these reasons, this research focusing on speaking and listening in Japanese language education. And these are reasons why I aim on the Japanese language education. And Japanese language education is a subject that deals with words. Words from a person's thoughts and values and used in a context of relationships with others. And the way we perceive our experiences, it depends on what word we use to describe them and how we find meaning in them for ourselves. And Japanese language education is a subject that allowing learners to relativize the self in society and to interpret and to make meaning through words in their own way. And why I aim on speaking and listening. The children who stutter often have difficulties in speaking situations, and special support in speaking and listening is essential. And also, Mori explains that the distinctive feature of speaking and listening is that it places language in the dynamics of an organic structure rather than taking it out as a universal objective element, focusing us to view communication in its full scope. So the purpose of this study is that focusing on children who have difficulties in speaking and listening in Japanese language studies, and I will examine the learning of speaking and listening that is inclusive of children who stutter, and examine the learning of Japanese language education that enables children who stutter to be in relationship with self and others. So about stuttering. The main symptoms of stuttering assumed by this study. これらが、全てでは、ありませんが、一通りその、本研究で想定する、喫音の症状を、少し挙げています。So the main symptoms are repeating sounds of or syllables and holding and throwing out certain syllables or sounds and blocking. And other symptoms, people who stutter often develop movement habits that appear when they stutter. And people who stutter may cause the emotional reactions. And word switching inside a word, etc. And trying to avoid certain situations. And other characteristics of stuttering is the variability and situation development, the situation dependent and the wave. And I think that there are the destruction effect that is, even if stuttering is temporarily eliminated after training, it may lose its effectiveness as the behavior during the training becomes habitual. And other mental health problems, the stuttering can cause feelings of frustrations, embarrassment, and shame. And people who stutter are more likely to have mental health conditions like anxiety or the depressions. で、そこの心理的な問題っていうところに、一応、この研究はフォーカスを当てているというような感じです。And the difficulties of children who stutter in learning is that children who stutter may have difficulties in school education due to the symptoms of stuttering. And the first one is difficulties with the self, and that is negative feelings about self or within the child who stutter. And the second is the difficulties with the others, and that is negative evaluations from others and relationship with others. And third one is the difficulties with the society, and that is social norms from among people. So how should we build the learning of speaking and listening in the context that these learners who stutter may be enrolled in regular classrooms? Well, I examine about the actual situation of children who stutter in speaking and listening. And in learning, learners may have social norms. And it is possible that children who stutter face a self that is different from those around them and relative to the social norm. And Harada said that in the past, I had what I can only call a grudge against the linguistic act of speaking. And this is because I could not perform the act of speaking, which is considered easy and natural by most people. At the time, I regarded the majority's way of thinking as normal and thought that it was good to conform the normal. And so it can be seen that the inability to speak normally due to stuttering has become a negative emotion. And Imai said that some children with development disabilities feel that being the same as everyone else is right and being different from everyone else is wrong. This creates a kind of obsessive notion that they must be the same as everyone else, and they are constantly anxious and fearful of being different from everyone else. So in speaking and listening, being able to speak fluently and participating in learning through speaking and listening are normal and the correct. So the learners who start outside of the right will have difficulties adapting to the communication culture of the classroom. In this case, the surrounding learners may try to exclude the child who stutters, who is different compared to the normal of the situation. So it is undeniable that the instruction of speaking and listening in which communication with heterogeneous others is required may have given learners social norms. So it is necessary to reform the existing speaking and listening learning instruction, which is based on majority assumptions. So the directions for the learning instructions of speaking and listening. And the first is adapting an inclusion perspective that is introduced by UNESCO. So introduce the philosophy of inclusion education as requested by UNESCO. And the inclusive education, it requires us the elimination of exclusion of various minorities such as children with disabilities, the poor and sexual minorities and the infirm, and the inclusion of them in the school education. And also a comparison with self-help groups. And the characteristic of self-help group is a place to belong and mutual help. So consideration of the sense of security in the classroom to comparison with the regular class. And second is the examination of participating in speaking and listening. And Harada said that when a learner participates in a class, the opportunity to confront the self and others is created in that place. In other words, for the learner, participation in class means participation in a relational field of self and others. So in speaking and listening, what is the state of participation is in the relational field of self others. I think I have to examine about this and consideration of various communication styles. So the communication is not limited to oral communication, but there are many possible styles of communication. So among them, it is important to learners to be able to choose a style that suits them. So in conclusion, in this presentation, I focus mainly on children who stutter, and after considering the actual situation of children who stutter, I examined the direction of speaking and listening for the inclusion of children who stutter. So I would like to know the thoughts and opinions from various perspectives. So I would be glad to hear from anyone on everything in order to aim for research that is rooted in people who stutter. はい。で、こちらが、主要な引用参考文献となっています。はい。ご清聴、ありがとうございました。
じゃあ、well done. やっぱり日本で本当、英語を話す機会自体がないわけだから、こういうふうな、既存フェスの場面で、プレゼンテーション、とてもウェルカムですんで、発表ありがとうございます。は、あれですけど、ちょっとですね、やっぱり会の発表の、大きいとして、イさんは、中学高校生の時に、やっぱ中学高校生の時に、国語で、でも、既存で困った経験がね、あったっていうふうに話を初め言われたと思うんですけど、なんか自分の研究を通して、なんか、ですね、既存のある子でも中学高校生、なんていう、自分が振り返って、やっぱりいうふうな授業が、多かったなっていうのを、そういうふうなことを、自分の最近から今日と発表してもらった分で、どれを取り入れた方がいいとかいうふうに思いますか？
そうですね。国語科教育として、話すこと、聞くことっていうときに、どうしてもやっぱり、国語教育学として、どうしても流暢に喋るとか、そういうスキル的な部分っていうのがその、結構、重要視されてきたということがあるんですけれども、そうではなくて、どちらかというと、人間関係っていう部分に、焦点を当てるようなこととか、あのー私の経験で言うと、やっぱり話し合いとか、国語科の中の話し合いとかで、どうしても周りに比べて、劣等感を持つとかっていうことが多かったので、で、理由をちょっと考えてみたときに、やっぱり流暢に喋れなくて、他の人と、違う、自分がいるっていうところに、困難っていうところを感じていたので、なんかそう、あの、他の人からの理解っていうのも結構重要にはなってくると思いますし、自分がどうあるべきかっていうのも、結構重要になってくると思いますので、国語教育として、教材とか、絵本とか、そういうところを使っていって、クラスには、いろんな、人がいるというところとか、自分は時つ音があるけれども、どうしていくことが、自分にとっていいのかっていうのを、言葉にして選択できるようにするとか、そういうところが、必要になってくるのかなというふうに考えています。
そうね。あと、学習指導を検討する方向性、でも3番目に挙げられている、ナラティブの概念を導入するってね、いうふうなこと書かれていますけど、なんていう、その、やっぱり、やっぱり国語の教科書で、やっぱきつ、やっぱきつ音のある人の、ぶ、文章を取り上げて、てももらった方がいいのか、まあ、それとも、クラスの人に、自分の吃音のことを話す機会があるっていうことがいいのか、どっちの方なんですかね、これは。
うーんと、クラスに喫音を話すっていうことになると、カミングアウトっていうことになっていくので、どうしても難しい子供もいると思いますし、特に言葉の教室とかに行ってないような子供は、その、えっと、クラスに向けてカミングアウトするってなると、ちょっと抵抗感があるような子供が結構やっぱりいると思うので、直接、あの、学校教育として、まあ、その、個人でカミングアウトをする、しないは選択していいとは思うんですけども、学校教育としては、まあ、無理強いをするわけにはいかないので、まあ、直接、時津音を扱うというよりかは、例えば、そういう、時津音に、似た題材を扱った、物語とか、絵本とかが、いっぱいあると思うので、そういうところを使っていって、で、それを媒介にして話し合うとか、そういう、直接的ではないような方法も、国語教育学としては、必要だというふうに、思ってます。
なるほどですね。まだ、日本の、ここ 日本の国語科、教育について、やっぱり基礎のある人、視点を取り入れた発言っていうのはとても大事だと思いますんでですね、これからもう、いろんな場面でも発信していただければ、いいんじゃないかなと思いますね。
ありがとうございます。
松本先生から、話すこと、聞くことともに話すこと、聞くことともに発達していくものです。発達に沿ったカリキュラムについても触れてほしいと思いました。はい。あとは、質問とかなんかありますか、皆さん。いいですか？はい。じゃあ、イーさんありがとうございました。お疲れ様でした。